Good morning, class 10. From today, we are going to revise our topics for a few days. As you must have seen by now, that we have started from lesson 1 in different subjects. Similarly, we will start from lesson 1 in history. And if you have any doubts, if you had any problem earlier, you did not understand any particular paragraph or chapter, you will get another opportunity to revise everything, to understand everything, and complete all your written work. We will keep sending you the question answers. Keep writing all question answers whichever we will send you in your fair copies now. If you have not maintained a fair copy till now, if you have been writing on pages or in your rough copies or in previous year's copies, because when you started your written work, the lockdown period was going on. So we had told you that you can use previous year's copies also, you can write on rough sheets. But now children, since the shops are open, stationery shops are also open, you can easily get your registers from the market. So please write everything now onwards in your fair registers, because don't forget that your copies will be marked later. Sometime later the schools will reopen. I'm very hopeful, I'm sure, and then you will be asked to bring your registers for getting marks as you have been getting every year. So at that time, if you have not finished your previous work, then you will enter into a problem. You will face lots of problems, because you can't finish so much of written work in 1 day or 2 days. That is why from now, whichever question answers we will send you, keep writing all the question answers in your fair copies. As you did last year, only one register you have to maintain, first half for history and second half for civics. Now, a question may arise in your mind that the question answers which I will send you now, if any question is common, that means I have already given you previously, then either you write the previous question answer or you write the new question answer, in case that question is common. Otherwise, all new question answers which I will send you, all you have to write in your copies very neatly, and keep on learning things as I have been telling you. Keep on revising things, because in a board class you cannot do selective study. Do not make a mistake of learning only what you are writing in the copy. The copy answers are there for your learning, for your help, but you should know the whole chapter thoroughly. You should be familiar with everything in the chapter. Okay, so let us begin with chapter 1 in history, that is nationalism in Europe. We will start from page 5. The French Revolution and the idea of the nation. Now in the first paragraph, you will read about the changes which were noticed in France. The first clear expression of nationalism came with the French Revolution in 1789. As last year you have studied the French Revolution, you must remember that French Revolution was a turning point, and it brought about several changes, not only in France but in other countries of the world also. France, as you would remember, was a full-fledged territorial state in 1789 under the rule of an absolute monarch. Which ruler? Any idea? If you remember, Louis XVI. Louis XVI was the ruler. The political and constitutional changes that came in the wake of French Revolution led to the transfer of sovereignty from monarchy to the body of French citizens. So this was a very important, significant change which came into being due to the French Revolution. It brought about end of monarchy, and it introduced the concept of democracy. The revolution proclaimed that it was the people who would henceforth constitute the nation and shape its destiny. From the very beginning, the French revolutionaries introduced various measures and practices that would create a sense of collective identity among the French people. The ideas of la patrie, the fatherland, and les citoyens, the citizen, emphasize the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. If you remember, when the French Revolution began, one of the important concepts which were popularized by French philosophers like John Locke, Rousseau, Voltaire, and Montesquieu, they wanted equality, isn't it? Equality before law, equality of opportunity. Everybody should be treated as equals, all should be given equal opportunities in the society. All this we have studied in class 9. Emphasize the notion of a united community enjoying equal rights under a constitution. A new French flag, the tricolor, was chosen to replace the formal royal standard. The Estates General was elected by the body of active citizens and renamed the National Assembly. If you remember, the Estates General was a place where it was a legislative body of France where all the meetings were held, and the meetings in which the representatives of the first estate, the second estate, and the third estate all used to be there. If any important rule had to be passed in France, if any important decision had to be taken place, it was done by the Estates General. The Estates General was elected by a body of active citizens and renamed as National Assembly. New hymns were composed, oaths taken, martyrs commemorated, all in the name of a nation. A centralized administrative system was put in place, and it formulated uniform laws for all citizens within its territory. All these were changes which came after the French Revolution. Internal custom duties and dues were abolished, and a uniform system of weights and measures were adopted. If you remember, at the time of French Revolution, one of the important factors that sowed the seeds of the French Revolution were the overburdened third estate. The people of the third estate were overburdened and they had to pay so many taxes. The taxes were being increased by Louis XVI so that he could meet the expenses of France, and the first estate and the second estate, they did not have to pay any taxes. The clergy and the nobility, they did not have to pay any taxes. So the custom duties, the internal dues, all these were abolished, and a uniform system of weights and measures were adopted. Regional dialects were discouraged. Regional dialects means the languages which were spoken within regions. These were discouraged, and French as a common language was promoted, was encouraged. The revolutionaries further declared that it was the mission and destiny of the French nation to liberate the people of Europe from despotism. In other words, to help other people of Europe to become nations. So, freedom for all, equality for all, liberation for all people in Europe was being popularized now. When the news of events in France reached the different cities of Europe, students and other members of educated middle class began setting up Jacobins Club. If you remember, we have studied about Jacobins Club last year. Please keep on remembering things which you did last year, because somewhere or the other they are connected to your class 10 history also. Their activities and campaigns prepared the way for French armies which moved into Holland, Belgium, Switzerland and much of Italy in the 1790s. With the outbreak of revolutionary wars, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism abroad. So, the French armies began to carry the idea of nationalism, because with the idea of nationalism, monarchy would be done away with, and democracy, the concept of equality before law and opportunity for all this could be made popular among the people. That is why the spirit of nationalism spread abroad also. Now children, this page, the next page, that is page number 6, is very, very important because it is giving you several points of Napoleonic Code. In order to bring about uniformity, in order to bring about equality, several reforms were introduced. It is known as Code Napoleon also, it is known as Napoleonic Code also, or it is known as Civil Code of 1804. In your board exam, this question is one of the most important questions which is asked in the board exam. Either it is asked in the form of Civil Code of 1804, or it is asked in the form of Napoleonic Code or Code Napoleon. Answer is the same. Okay. Now, when I will read this, I will also tell you to mark the points. Which points are under Napoleonic Code, or what reforms did Napoleon introduce? I will tell you. Keep marking as point number 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. Keep a pencil with you so that you can mark. Let us start this paragraph. Within the wide swathe of territory, wide swathe means wide group of territory that came under his control, Napoleon set about introducing many of the reforms that had already introduced in France. Through a return to monarchy, Napoleon had no doubt destroyed democracy in France, but in administrative field, he had incorporated revolutionary principles in order to make the whole system more rational and efficient. That means, although he did not allow democracy to continue under his rule and brought monarchy again into his rule, the concept of monarchy again existed under him. But in administrative fields, he introduced many reforms. Now underline. The Civil Code of 1804, usually known as the Napoleonic Code, underline this whole sentence. Civil Code of 1804, also known as Napoleonic Code. Now from the next line, mark. It is the first point now. Did away with all privileges based on birth, established equality before law. This is the first point. First reform, first change which Napoleonic Code included. First thing was, the Napoleonic Code did away with all privileges based on birth and established equality before law. Second point, secured the right to property. Right to property should be given to all. It secured this right. This is the second point. This code was the second point ends with right to property. I am just reading the next line. It is not a point. This code was exported to the regions under French control, in the Dutch Republic, in Switzerland, in Italy and Germany. Now the third point, Napoleon simplified administrative divisions. This is the third point. Napoleon simplified administrative divisions. Fourth point, abolished the feudal system. Feudal system was very similar to the system of holding land under landlords. Feudal lords, I have taught you last year also. Feudal lords were like landlords, and feudal system was like holding land by the zamindars. In India, when we had zamindari system, the zamindars held large pieces of land under them. Similarly, feudal system existed here also. So, abolished the feudal system. This is the fourth point. And freed peasants from serfdom and manorial dues. This is the continuation of the fourth point. What is serfdom? Serfdom means slavery. Serfdom is slavery. And manorial dues. Now here I am telling you 2-3 word meanings which if you want you can write down. first word is manor, M-A-N-O-R. Manor were presents of land, presents. When the land was given as present, as gift, it was known as manor, M-A-N-O-R. Then lord of manor, lord of manor, L-O-R-D, lord of M-A-N-O-R, manor. It means ownership of land. In brackets you can write manor, ownership of land or ownership of manor. Then manorial dues. Manorial dues was a kind of fees which the peasants or the serfs, that were the slaves, had to give to the nobles who was the landlord of the land. I am repeating, manorial dues were like fees which were given by the peasants or by the serfs, S-E-R-F-S, by the serfs to those nobles who were the owners of the land. Okay, so manorial dues and the policy of serfdom, that is slavery, this was abolished. So this is continuation of your fourth point. Now the fifth point. In towns too, guild restrictions were removed. Guild restrictions, guilds are groups of people. They can comprise of craftsmen, they can comprise of merchants, traders, etc. So guild restrictions, that means till now the guilds were restricted. That means their movement was restricted. They could not move anywhere freely from one part of the country to another. But now guild restrictions were removed. So this is your fifth point. Sixth point. Transport and communication systems were improved. Transport and communication systems were improved. So these 6 points you will include if you are asked what was Napoleonic Code or what was the Civil Code of 1804 or what do you understand by Code Napoleon. Any question is asked, you will write these 6 points. Now let us continue. Peasants and artisans, workers and new businessmen enjoyed a newfound freedom. Obviously, when their restrictions were removed, now they were free. Comparatively, they enjoyed more freedom. Businessmen and small-scale producers of goods in particular began to realize that uniform laws, standardized ways and measures, and a common national currency would facilitate the movement and exchange of goods and capital from one region to another. That means it was a very beneficial change which was brought about for businessmen and small-scale traders or producers. These found that by the introduction of uniform laws, by the introduction of standardized ways and measures and a common currency, it would help them to exchange goods from one trader to another. They could freely move from one place to another, and exchange of capital was also now possible from one region to another. However, in the areas conquered, the reactions of the local populations of the French rule were mixed. That means all the people, the local people living in France, all people were not very happy with these reforms being introduced by Napoleon. Initially, in many places such as Holland and Switzerland, as well as in certain cities like Brussels, Mainz, Milan and Warsaw, the French armies were welcomed as harbingers of liberty. But the initial enthusiasm soon turned to hostility as it became clear that the new administrative arrangements did not go hand in hand with political freedom. So why some people did not encourage these reforms or these changes? Because soon some people found that these changes are only going to bring about changes in the administrative system. But as far as political freedom of the people was concerned, no change has been brought about in the political freedom of the people. That is why they were not very much interested in these reforms to continue. Increased taxation, censorship. Censorship means control the freedom of press, to control the freedom of expression and press. Increased taxation, censorship, forced conscription. Forced conscription means forced labor. It was like slavery. Forced conscription into the French armies. The people were forced to work in the French army. Required to conquer the rest of Europe. All seem to overweigh the advantages of the administrative changes. The last three line means that the increased taxation, putting a censor on the freedom of expression and freedom of press, and forcing the people to join the French army. These three important things, which where no improvement was brought about, no change was brought about, the people were more inclined to focus these three disadvantages or three problems which the people were facing, rather than highlight the administrative changes which were brought about under Napoleon. So whatever changes he brought about, those were subdued, their benefits were suppressed, and the people started highlighting the three problems which were in front of them: increased taxation, censorship, and forced conscription. Now next page. Making of nationalism in Europe. Now children, I am reading this paragraph quickly just to revise, although I don't think there is something very, very important in this paragraph. The making of nationalism in Europe. If you look at the map of mid-18th century Europe, you will find that there were no nation states as we know them today. Now what is a nation state? If you want to write down, you can write down. Nation state means a group of people with the same culture, same language, who form an independent country. The group of people with the same culture, same language, etc., who form an independent country. This becomes a nation state. What we know today as Germany, Italy and Switzerland were divided into kingdoms, duchies and cantons. Now what is duchy and what is a canton? Duchy means territories ruled by a duke or a duchess. Duchess is the feminine gender of duke. Territories which are ruled by the duke or a duchess, those are known as duchies. What is a canton? Subdivision of a territory for the purpose of administration in some countries. Subdivision of territories for the purpose of administration. That means if the territories are divided into further parts for administrative convenience, for administrative purpose, it was known as canton. Duchies and cantons whose rulers had their autonomous territories. Eastern and Central Europe were under autocratic monarchies within the territories of which lived diverse peoples. They did not see themselves as sharing a collective identity or a common culture. Often, they even spoke different languages and belonged to different ethnic groups. The Habsburg Empire that ruled over Austria-Hungary, for example, was a patchwork of many different regions and people. It included the Alpine regions, the Tyrol, Austria and Sudetenland, as well as Bohemia, where the aristocracy was predominantly German-speaking. It also included Italian-speaking provinces of Lombardy and Venetia. In Hungary, half of the population spoke Magyar. Magyar is the language spoken by the people of Hungary, while the other half spoke the variety of dialects, that means different languages. In Galicia, the aristocracy spoke Polish. Polish is the language spoken by the people of people of Poland. Besides these three dominant groups, There also lived within the boundaries of the empire the mass of subject peasant people, Bohemians and the Slovaks in the north, Slovenes in Carniola, Croats to the south, and Romans to the east of Transylvania. Such differences did not easily promote the sense of political unity. The only tie binding these diverse groups together was a common allegiance to the emperor. That means common commitment to the emperor. Now in this paragraph you don't have to learn anything at all. Come to the next heading. The aristocracy and the new middle class. Socially and politically, a landed aristocracy was the dominant class on the continent. Landed aristocracy means those people in the society who were owners of large pieces of land. The members of this class were united by a common way of life that cut across regional divisions. They owned estates. What are estates? Large farms, large pieces of land covering a very extensive area. Those are estates. They owned estates in the countryside and also town houses. They spoke French for the purpose of diplomacy and in high society. Their families were often connected by ties of marriage. Whose families? Those families who belonged to the landed aristocracy and were owners of large estates. They were connected by ties of marriage. This powerful aristocracy was, however, numerically a small group, but these people were only a small section of people. The majority of population was made up of peasantry. To the west, the bulk of land was farmed by tenants and small owners, while in Eastern and Central Europe, the pattern of landholding was characterized by vast estates which were cultivated by serfs. In Western and parts of Central Europe, the growth of industrial production and trade meant the growth of towns and emergence of commercial classes whose existence was based on production for the market. Industrialization began in England in the second half of the 18th century, but in France, the parts of the German states, it occurred only during the 19th century. In its wake, new social groups came into being. A working class population, middle classes made up of industrialists, businessmen, professionals. In Central and Eastern Europe, these groups were smaller in number till late 19th century. It was among the educated liberal middle class that the ideas of national unity following the abolition of aristocratic privileges gained popularity. Now in this, only the last line is very important. The whole paragraph you don't have to learn anything. Only remember what is written in the last line. The summary of the last line is that because this aristocracy, the landed aristocracy, was given privileges or preferences in the society, so the common people, the middle class people, wanted unity, wanted to popularize the idea of national unity so that the aristocratic privileges which were gaining popularity, those could be abolished and everybody should be treated as equal in the society. What did liberal nationalism stand for? Now this paragraph is important. Ideas of national unity in the early 19th century of Europe were closely allied to the ideology of liberalism. Idea of national unity was closely associated with the idea of liberalism. What is liberalism? Freedom. The term liberalism derives from the Latin root liber, meaning free. Underline this line. It has been taken from the Latin root liber, which means free. For the new middle classes, liberalism stood for freedom for the individual and equality of all before law. Underline this. So, the simple people, the middle class people, according to them, what was liberalism? Liberalism was nothing but idea of freedom, the concept of freedom for them and equality before law. Politically, it emphasized the concept of government by consent. That means in the political field they meant liberalism is what? Allowing the people, the middle class people also, to give their consent when government is formed, to be participants in the forming of the government. And how can any ordinary citizen be a participant in the forming of the government? Simple answer is by voting. Since the French Revolution, liberalism had stood for the end of autocracy and clerical privileges, a constitution and representative government through parliament. 19th century liberals also stressed the inviolability of private property. Now, in the next paragraph, some lines are very important. I will tell you, you must mark them. Yet, the equality before the law did not necessarily stand for universal suffrage. What is universal suffrage? Everybody should be given the right to vote. Universal suffrage means right to vote. Equality before law did not necessarily stand for universal suffrage. That means everybody was not given a right to vote. You will recall that in revolutionary France, which marked the first political experiment in liberal democracy, the right to vote and to get elected was granted exclusively to property owning men. This, children, you have studied last year. Only the propertied men in the society, those who were owners of property in the society, only those people were given the right to vote. Other people who did not own property, or the women section, the female section, the women in the society, those were debarred from voting. The right to vote and to get elected was granted exclusively to property owning men. Men without property and all women were excluded from political rights. Only for a brief period under the Jacobins did all adult males enjoy suffrage. Now, you, as I told you some time back, you have to remember last year's history also, because somewhere or the other it is related. Last year when we were doing Jacobins Club and the reforms which were introduced under Jacobins Club, one of the things we have studied was that the people, the male section, the adult male section of the society was given the right to vote, but this right to vote for all male section of the society continued only for some time. By and large, only the propertied men were given this right. Only for a brief period under the Jacobins did all adult males enjoy suffrage. Suffrage means right to vote, remember. However, the Napoleonic Code went back to limited suffrage. Napoleonic Code again revived this policy of limited suffrage. That means only the propertied men could vote, and reduced women to the status of minor. Women were not given rights. Subject to a